Let's imagine I've moved to a new place or had to replace my router for some reason. I need to get online as soon as possible, and so I'm looking for a router. Now, if I'm like most people, and usually I am, I'm probably going to be looking for a cheap router that's easy to install. But I'm not going to go to just any place to find it. So I head over to Amazon, and I see the top-rated routers with the lowest prices. Wavlink looks good. Read the reviews, everything seems fine. Click the order button, and that's that. Looks fine, sleek, modern, capable, a little cheaply made, but not surprising given the price. Now these evil Nazis are not going to shoot themselves, so I need to set up my router as quickly as possible and get started on my game. Bam! Everything is set up. I have the internet, game going well, end of story, right? Not so fast. While I may have paid a small price for that Wavlink router in terms of dollars, what I end up paying is actually much bigger. In fact, it's huge, and that's because of the hidden backdoors placed within these Chinese-made devices. Yes, that's right, hidden backdoors. Backdoors that seem to be made not for users to get control of their devices, but for attackers, cybercriminals who may be thousands of miles away able to remotely access and control your devices. And it's not just the cheap Wavlink devices you find on Amazon as the choice router. The same hidden backdoors were discovered on Walmart-exclusive Jetstream routers. Jetstream routers are sold exclusively by Walmart as their new line of affordable Wi-Fi routers. So let's hear from our senior information security researcher here at Cybernews, Mantas Sasnauskas, on how he worked together with two other cybersecurity researchers to uncover these hidden backdoors.
I'm Mantas, senior information security researcher at Cybernews. Some time ago, I was contacted by my friend Ronnie Carta, who asked me to look at his and another security researcher, James Klee, report about these Chinese routers. They found multiple critical vulnerabilities in these routers that allowed remote code execution.
Basically just looked for Wi-Fi routers on Amazon and found the cheapest one and bought it because I didn't want to buy a $100 gaming router just to break it. So Wavlink fit the bill of the cheapest one I could find. So that's how I bought the initial router. And then I started checking all the files that were on the web server first, so it was accessible. And then that is how I found almost right away, the first couple of endpoints, all the live underscore ones. I just started checking them one by one, and it's like, wow, there's a ton of stuff here.
So basically, he posted something on Katie's Discord, and I was like, that sounds super odd. Maybe it's a backdoor. So he explained to me the story. I read his article and everything, and I was like, okay, holy shit, that's a backdoor.
When I've looked at this report, it seemed that these vulnerabilities allows bad actors to basically take over your Wi-Fi network and launch multiple different attacks. We found out that there was a backdoor pre-planted in the routers that doesn't seem an accident, rather an undocumented functionality.
Yes, the GUI is probably the closest thing to a smoking gun that this was intended. Somewhere along the way, someone created this for this purpose. But even if you remove the GUI, the issue of the command injection or command execution still exists. The GUI is definitely the worst looking part of it. But even without it, the thing is still set up for failure from the beginning.
When we looked further, we found out that there is a script in the firmware that allows for nearby network discovery. Why would a router need that functionality, and why would it be undocumented?
Now, one question you'll probably have is, what's the connection between the Walmart-exclusive Jetstream routers and Wavlink? Seems pretty random, right? Well, when we investigated these companies, we discovered something interesting. Both Jetstream and Wavlink seem to be owned by a company named Winstars Technology based in Shenzhen, China. So let's talk about Wavlink. When we visited Wavlink's LinkedIn page, we saw that some of their employees listed their workplace as Winstars Technology Limited. When we went to Winstars' site, we saw that their listed company address is the same as Wavlink's company address. Beyond that, their products seem to be exactly the same. We then discovered that Wavlink is actually a registered trademark of Winstars Technology, which puts Winstars as the parent company. Now, let's talk about Jetstream. Although Jetstream appears to have signed an exclusivity deal with Walmart to offer their routers as affordable, there isn't a lot of information about them online. But when we looked at the products offered by Jetstream, we saw that they were very similar to Wavlink and Windstar products. And not only that, but their login pages had the same design. And when we looked at the source code for Wavlink's login page, we saw that they had the same word Jetstream right in there. So we dug further and saw that the files within the routers themselves link Jetstream and Wavlink in multiple URLs. So Winstars being Wavlink's parent company, we assume that Jetstream is a subsidiary of theirs as well. Winstars doesn't have a lot of information about it online, which isn't particularly unusual for Chinese manufacturing companies. However, we see that Winstars' annual revenue is about $45 million per year, and their monthly capacity, meaning the number of various devices they produce each month, ranges from 1 to 2 million. So at 100% capacity, that means that there are 12 to 24 million Winstars Wavlink Jetstream devices being shipped all around the world every single year. Now, we should mention, of course, that the Chinese government is known for its surveillance programs. Its data retention laws require that Chinese companies keep data on service inside the country and to give Chinese authorities unlimited access to that data. Winstars' own company page, by the way, indicates that it is involved in multiple government fully funded projects. This is all speculation, of course. We've attempted multiple times to contact the company, but have not yet received a single response. So, what do the hidden backdoors mean for consumers like you and me?
This remote code execution vulnerability would have a huge impact on the owner of the network. A bad actor could launch mass scan attacks and exploit thousands of networks that are connected with these routers.
If you were a malicious actor and you were about to find those vulnerabilities and those backdoors, like the first thing to do is not to aim individuals, but to mass scan and mass exploit people. Like at that point, you want to do maybe a botnet, which means that you are going to hook every devices that you can and then spread on the network to hook more devices and then to run arbitrary commands. You can, for instance, DDoS a website, or you can steal the credentials of every devices at the same time. This is really powerful.
Imagine you are one of the unlucky ones that use these Jetstream or Wavlink routers, and everything that's connected to your home network, like your NAS devices, your smart TVs, even your laptops and computers, or your mobile phones, could be compromised by these bad actors. Basically, all the activity that you do in that network would be compromised. Bad actors would be able to see your traffic, they would be able to control your devices, they would be basically owning your network.
You can very easily see via some of the information disclosure, you can see all the other nearby networks or all the other devices that are connected. So, you could then use the information. If an attacker just has a list of like 500 devices that are out there, you can easily check through, okay, of these routers that I know about, what's on their home network? Is there anything, I know that there's this computer that's out there. You can very easily, it gives you the information without even having to do any sort of exploitation. It gives you an idea of what you could pivot to on the home network. And then that's where you really would start being concerned. Like your Wi-Fi router is one thing, it's got a very limited scope, but then if you're able to pivot off of that, and let's say you haven't updated your Windows PC in a year or something like that, then all of a sudden the scope of it's like all of your internal, your home stuff that you think is, not connected to the, it's not externally facing, you think is okay. All of a sudden that's all becomes in scope.
Why would a company based in China would have this undocumented functionality? I mean, we are talking about a normal backdoor that none of the routers should have.
It took us probably less than 24 hours to come up with a very simple proof of concept to show that we can man in the middle any traffic going across the router. Like I set up a VM that was connecting to it, and then everyone was able to see me navigating to different sites. If the barrier of entry was so low for us to be able to create an exploit for this, it is not out of the realm of possibility to have something that has someone else out there is able to make something worse that says, okay, yep, I can permanently have this on the system, whether it's a malicious firmware update or something like that. There's definitely more that could be done with this. We'll put it that way.
When James first found these vulnerabilities in Wavlink routers, he tried to disclose it to them in February, but had no response since.
Concerning, given that I have yet to hear any sort of response from Wavlink or them show any sort of interest in fixing the problem. And then you go on Amazon and you see these devices have like 5-star reviews. People are like, oh, it's so easy to set up. Like, I highly recommend it and stuff like that. And there's a couple comments in here that says, hey, there's all these vulnerabilities. You really shouldn't be using this. But like the average person on Amazon is just going to say, hey, it's a cheap router with 5 stars. I mean, at one point, the router that I got was an Amazon's Choice router. And it's like, I understand that not everyone is a security person out there and people aren't thinking the same way that I am about it, but that to me is just super concerning. The fact that it still seems to be, I wouldn't say widespread usage, but people are definitely still buying it and using it and thinking this works great. And it's so easily exploitable. It could be even worse if someone were to take a good hard look at it, and there seems to be no interest in fixing the problem.
So, if you're one of these unlucky people who have an affected Wavlink or Jetstream device, your network and all the devices connected to the network are susceptible to these attacks. The minimum thing you should do is to get rid of your current device, change your online passwords, and try to get a new router as soon as possible. For a more detailed description of what you should do next, you should visit the link to our article in the description below. Thanks for watching.